Alright, so we're going to move on. We've been pretty much this whole week, we've been doing foreign policy, right? We were in Korea, and then yesterday we talked about the arms race, building up the nuclear weapons, and we had a timeline, and there were a lot of dates thrown at you, right? And a lot of times, I'm not a person that's good with dates, remembering dates and stuff like that, and a lot of times that can turn people off to history. So, you don't necessarily always remember the exact date, like when you hear 9/11/2001, that obviously is the date that everyone remembers, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people remember December 7th, 1941.
No. Yes.
Oh, especially generations ago. Maybe not as much. Anyone want to raise their hand? What's December 7th, 1941? Yes.
Oh.
Pearl Harbor was bombed. Good.
Okay.
But specific dates sometimes are hard to remember all these specific dates that are thrown at you. So, who wants to break down the important thing about the dates that were given yesterday? Why we were given the dates? What was the big picture of yesterday's lesson? Fiona?
U.S. in 1945 had its first nuclear weapon, and in 1949, USSR had a nuclear weapon. That's it all.
Okay, so that's the start. In 1945, the U.S. dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima, right? First atomic bomb, only atomic bomb, dropped in another country. What's that? Oh, okay. 1949, the Soviets tested their own atomic bomb they had. So that's the start. So what was the big picture? Where do we end and what was happening? So what can we say from that? The U.S. was definitely ahead.
Mrs. Rojas, please contact the main office.
The U.S. was definitely ahead of the Soviet Union as far as technology, at least at the end of the 40s, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what was the big picture again? Saying that. So what happened towards the end, do you remember? Kimberly?
Towards the end, Russia had built the
Sputnik. I remember Sputnik. We kind of ended off with that. And so what was Sputnik?
Satellite 1.
A satellite. Yeah, satellite 1 is what it meant. Yes. Okay. And what were you saying now again, Kimberly? They what?
In terms of science, they were ahead of America, so America, kind of forgot about their fusion bomb.
Fusion bomb. Okay, yeah, I was in the middle. They got closer. But your point is dead on. Yes. Did everybody hear that?
Yeah.
So the whole point of all that yesterday was pretty much to say the U.S. started off with a big lead in science and technology, especially military science technology. And by the end of the 1950s, the Russians overtook us with Sputnik, which was a satellite. And one thing I wanted to get to yesterday, I didn't quite get to. Does anybody know how big Sputnik was? The satellite? Does anyone want to take a guess? Like what you said, I'll tell you, it was not the size of this room. It was something that you could say like it was kind of close to the size of this or that.
The closet. The TV.
All right, let's raise our hand. Thank you. The closet, okay. Oh, the big reveal account, yeah. The TV? Yes.
The size of a punch buggy.
A what?
Oh, the hard punch buggy? So okay. Anybody else? Yes.
Like,
I'm a puppy?
no, like a blue, but I mean like, it was like deep in the size, it was too big.
Okay. You think bigger than the room?
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody agree with Tiona? That Sputnik was bigger than this room?
No. What about you?
The size really
What do I think?
Your size.
Oh, my size? Sputnik my size?
The size of the top.
Okay, anybody else?
A desk.
A desk.
A window.
Okay, alright, then I'm just throwing out things. I love lamp, right? So, the closest I'm going to say was Ashley. It was about 22 inches in diameter, so it was about this big. And 3 antennas coming out of it. So, bigger than this room, definitely not, right? As big as a car or a...
It's close to a desk.
No?
I think, when I looked at that, I saw that being about that. I guess a puppy could be right too, depending on which puppy. That'd be a pretty big puppy, though. Maybe like a St. Bernard puppy. Okay. So that was the idea yesterday. the Soviet Union had caught up and surpassed the U.S. in technology. Now we ended off with one that, how did the U.S. respond to this? What was the big thing that the U.S. did to respond to this? Anybody write it down or remember?
Oh,
How did they respond to, they got, remember Sputnik caused a craze almost. They were scared. These Soviets, our enemies, you know, our mortal enemies have surpassed us.
didn't
Yes.
they launch something right after that? Oh, is that when they got out of space?
Okay, yeah, that all happened after, but still in those things. But yes, we launched Explorer when our W, I think that was our satellite. We launched the satellite also.
Do we bomb them?
Did we bomb them? No. No. They remember they had nuclear weapons too, so bombing them probably would have been a bad idea. We said how we thought, some ways we thought the Soviet Union got ahead of us, right?
Yeah.
What do you need when you're making things? When you're making big things, the satellites and the research that goes into satellites and, right? You need cash, yes. You need cash. And the U.S. wasn't quite spending enough maybe to keep, or as much as they thought to keep caught up, or keep ahead of them. So we did something. We passed an act. Does anyone remember what that was called?
Oh, the National Education Act.
Hmm? No, go ahead. Raise your hand.
Isn't it the National something Education Act?
Close. It was National what? Education Act. Yes. Okay. Yes. You want to?
Did she say it?
Yes.
Oh.
So you didn't hear it, so maybe answer again. So let's see.
National Defense Education Act.
Yes. Let's go on in, Georgette. Yes. So NDEA, the National Defense Education Act. It went from approximately in the 50s, they spent about 163 million on science, education, and stuff like that, or research. And it went from with that, in the first 4 years of the 60s, it was a couple of billion. So a huge inflow of cash into science, education, things like that. They stressed science education more. As a history teacher, it hurts me to say, but they stressed science education, math education, things that would assist in building and getting ahead again in the arms race and the space race. And did we? Did it work?
Yeah.
Does money always translate to success?
No.
Not always. But in this case, I think we said it, what did Kennedy say in the beginning of the decade? What was his goal? What was the big goal by the end of the 60s? By the end of this decade, remember?
Brandon troops on.
Alright, let's raise your hand. Yes.
So you would have the troops on again.
Have the troops home from where?
Huh?
To have the troops home from where?
From the war.
Which war?
That war.
Can't be a song stuff
The Cold War. No.
Cold War?
Damn it. Gosh.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say it's not have the, you didn't say have the troops home.
You said for Christmas you would have the
Okay, that wasn't Kennedy.
Oh.
That was true. That was MacArthur. The general. Yes.
Wasn't it just
Yes, everybody hear that? That was kind of just an aside. It wasn't part of us, but by 1969 we put a man on the moon. Soviet Union still has not put a man on the moon. I don't know if they ever will. I don't know if that's even a feasible goal.
No.
So we beat them there, right? So within 10 years, put money in there, and we get built big enough rockets, and they had enough science to actually go to the moon and actually land a human being and walk on the moon. All right? Okay, so now we're going to get off foreign policy. We'll talk a little more about domestic and what was going on in America. So we had a lot of things we talked about. Like I said, a lot of things were happening in the 50s as far as communism and stuff like that. We just talked about Sputnik, right? That caused some fear. We talked about so what other things were happening that, as an American, if you were an American back then, that you might be scared of, that we talked about? Yes, yeah. Bombs? Nuclear bombs? Okay, maybe we'll make a list here. So, and then what else? What are nuclear bombs turn into that we talked about? Hold on. Kimberly? Yes. Everybody get that? Speak up a little bit. And we want to finish it off, intercontinental.
Ballistic.
One more word. ICBM. Missile. Sorry, so the nuclear bombs turn to nuclear missiles. So this is a big thing. So you gotta imagine yourself in that time, or we kind of do that now. Because a lot of things happened in schools. I think you saw it. Remember the video? Did it end last Friday? We watched the video in class for about 10, 15 minutes.
Civil War?
Civil War? Yes.
Oh, she said on the Civil War.
Okay, no. Alright. I want to hear, yeah, next.
When they made the houses and the houses.
Okay. Okay, so that was one thing. Bomb shelters?
Yeah.
You remember seeing that? So let's make a list of domestic things. What does domestic mean, first of all? There's two opposing things, or different things. There's foreign and domestic. So which? Yeah.
Domestic is within.
Okay. Within. Did you have your hand raised, Ish?
No.
Miss Yona? Okay. Within? Okay, good. So I want to expand on that as far as America. Things that are happening where? In Russia? Is that domestic? Things that are happening in America. Okay. So we're making this domestic things. And our responses to this fear now. Remember, we have this fear now that these missiles could be launched. Okay. So bomb shelters and kind of similar to fallout shelters they were building. People were actually building in their homes. Governments were building them. What else do you remember? Do you remember anything about in the school?
Yeah.
With school children they were teaching?
Oh, yeah, the Ducking Cover.
All right, you got to raise your hand.
Ducking Cover.
Yes, Ducking Cover. Remember, so you have to get up and hear what first? What they say when you see the flash, right? When you see the flash, get up, ducking cover. Yeah, the turtle. I forgot the turtle's first name. Do you remember what his name was? Blah blah the turtle. Yeah, do you remember?
And the document, it said something about that. I forgot what it was. It was schools, and they said it was, it stopped the children from learning. I forgot what it was about, but it was something about it.
It stopped them. Okay. Well, maybe if you want. Oh, you handed it in. Go ahead.
No, I wanted to complete her thought.
Okay, go.
It
Yes.
was saying, I'm sorry, but it was saying that because the students like in the middle of class, the air raid sirens would go off, and then the teachers would have to stop talking and then lead everyone to the basement. So it like took away from their school day and learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Good job with that. Yeah. Good job remembering the DBQ and actually bringing the information to class. That's good. Okay. So ducking cover. This idea that you got about you can survive a nuclear blast on your desk, right? It's kind of like the only thing maybe remember we were looking at those the perimeters for the bomb yesterday. I handed those out. How far it reached. Maybe if you're on the very fringe and your biggest worry was like flying debris. I can see that maybe being right. Like the glass windows breaking out, maybe get on your desk could help you from that. But if you're in close enough to a nuclear blast, a desk ain't gonna do anything. Desk will burn up, you should burn up. Not to be too dramatic. Okay, so duck and cover. Now I was talking to somebody that went to school, 7 years old he was telling me in the 50s. He went to a Catholic school in Frogs Neck, and they gave them dog tags.
Oh.
So I'm guessing by the reaction, you know what dog tags are?
Yeah.
Does anybody not know what dog tags are? Alright, good. Do you want to explain?
She does. It's a tag you put on the dog with his name on it. Oh.
Okay, that's the literal definition of dog tags.
Well, not literally.
It's a tag that one wears to identify who they are in case they die.
Okay, is it a dog or?
No, human.
Okay, human. But I guess a dog, yeah. You can say a dog tag also.
It's like chains that they wear on the arm.
There you go. The military gets them a lot, right? So it has.